Hello friends, see you again with Ndrow Movie here. As usual, I don't forget to pray for all of you, to always be healthy and happy. For those who have not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. And don't forget to press the like and share button in this video. In this video I will discuss a film called The Beach House, which was released in 2019. This movie is a horror genre film. Without further ado, let's start with the storyline of this movie. At the beginning of the film, we are shown a couple who are having a vacation in a beach house. The teenage boy's name is Randall, and the girl's name is Emily. From their conversation it is known that this house is an empty house belonging to Randall's father. Therefore Randall deliberately invites Emily to this house for a vacation alone. When they arrived, the two of them immediately went upstairs to try to have sex in the house. Then Emily asked permission to go to the toilet downstairs to pee for a bit. When it was finished, Emily found a lot of drugs behind the sink mirror. Emily, who was curious about the contents of the house, immediately went around to the kitchen of the house. From what Emily saw in the kitchen, one could prove that this house wasn't really empty. When Emily looked around, suddenly someone entered the house. Emily immediately hides. Then Emily snuck out so the mysterious person wouldn't notice. Seen that the person was sitting at the dining table while doing something. Emily, feeling scared, immediately went upstairs and told Randall. Randall was also confused as to why anyone could be in this house. They both went down to check the situation below. But the mysterious person was no longer at the dining table. Little did he know that the mysterious person was hiding and looking scared. Randall immediately asked the woman, "What are you doing in my house?" Hearing Randall's question, the woman said that her friend named Doc said no one would come here. It turns out Doc is the name of Randall's father. The woman admitted that she had been friends with her father Randall for a long time. He also introduced himself that his name was Jane. Suddenly came a man, which man was her husband Jane. Jane's newly arrived husband is named Meats. Meats also said that he was a colleague of Doc's since 20 years ago. In the end the four of them introduced themselves and planned to make a barbecue that night. At night the four of them sat at the dining table drinking. They exchanged thoughts and chatted with each other. Then they went to the balcony of the house while continuing to chat. Not long after that, suddenly there was a lot of something that was not clear in the wind and stuck to the tree. Emily, who understood this, said that they were all microbes dispersed through the wind. Jane, who had never seen it before, was interested in going down and over to the tree. Drunkenly, Meats allows Jane just like that. While Randall, who was half drunk, was planning to play some music in the house. At that moment Jane was getting ready to leave the house. On the balcony of the house, only Emily and Meats live, who are chatting. Until one day Meats curious, what is Jane actually doing downstairs? Emily also looked into the house, and found that Randall was drunk. With a sense of panic Meats immediately went to find Jane. On the other hand, Jane walking up to the tree was attracted by the twinkling microbe. Jane also handled the microbe casually. As a result, some of the microbes stuck to Jane's palm. Then Jane started feeling short of breath and coughing. While in the house there were only Randall and Emily, who were already drunk. Emily also started to smell the stench coming from outside. When Emily wanted to go out, she saw a very thick fog. In the end Emily didn't go out and stayed home. The stench was so bad it made Emily even more dizzy. Until Emily fainted. Then Emily realized that the house was very dark. Not long after that Emily heard the sound of Jane throwing up from the toilet. When Emily approached the toilet, Meats immediately closed the toilet door. Morning came. Emily woke up in the room with Randall. Emily told me that last night was a total mess. Jane who just vomits and Meets who looks displeased. After that Emily walked downstairs and saw Jane already sitting at the dining table. Emily also called Jane while walking towards her. But Jane didn't speak a word. When she was beside him, Emily noticed that Jane's face was a little flaky and dry than usual. Then Emily asked Jane, "Jane, do you see Meets?" Hearing that question, Jane was even like a dazed person who had difficulty speaking and also had difficulty walking. Then Jane walked upstairs and ran into Randall. Randall greeted Jane with no response at all. Here the situation is getting critical since last night's incident. During the day they scream loudly and call the name Meets. But Meets never came. Finally they both lay down on the beach sand while waiting for Meets. As it was getting late, Randall suddenly felt an excruciating stomach ache. Randall said to Emily that he would be back in the house in a bit to defecate in the toilet. While Emily was lying down, suddenly a Meet came from out of nowhere. Meets tells Emily that he loves Jane very much. Meets also says, "You will always care for the person you love until that person is no longer normal." Emily also asked Meets, "How was Jane last night?" But Meets doesn't answer Emily's question. And he said he would swim in this beautiful beach. Instantly Meets walking into the water to swim. But after being watched, Meets keeps walking into the water until he is out of sight. In other words, Meet deliberately drowned himself into the sea. Then Randall, who had finished defecating, tried to wash his hands. When he washed his hands, what came out was cloudy and dirty water. Then Randall came out of the toilet and heard a crash from upstairs. Randall thought it was Meets doing something. Randall went upstairs and eavesdropped from outside the room. In the end the curious Randall tried to enter the room. On the other hand Emily kept on shouting Meets' name which just drowned itself out. Emily unconsciously stepped on something strange on the beach. The creature seemed to move slowly. As a result of stepping on the creature, Emily's foot was immediately bitten until it turned red. If you look at it, it's a kind of parasite that can injure humans. As a result, Emily's right leg was perforated. Emily could only scream calling Randall's name while dragging her feet into the house. It is also seen that on the coast there are a lot of parasites that are scattered. Emily's feet seemed to be getting worse. Because the parasite was already in her leg, so Emily took a bottle of vinegar and poured it on the soles of her feet. From her expression, Emily endured excruciating pain. Then Emily took the parasites from the soles of her feet using a knife and tongs. If observed in detail, this parasite is more shaped like a worm or caterpillar and the like. Emily immediately wrapped her leg in a bandage and she drank the medicine that was behind the sink mirror. Then he changed his clothes and put on shoes as footwear. Emily suddenly saw Randall coming out of the room and dragging his body on the floor. It turns out that behind Emily there is already Jane who has turned into a zombie. Randall and Emily, who had difficulty walking, tried to escape from Jane's pursuit. To prevent Jane from getting out, Emily tied the doorknob with a water hose. Then they both tried to escape in a car. But unfortunately the car keys were still in the upstairs room. Then Emily and Randall continued walking away from the house. To the point that they found another house to ask for help. But the house was an empty house with no occupants. Not long after that someone came from next to them. It was confirmed that the person was the same zombie as Jane. The two of them immediately ran away from the house in such a thick fog. The entire residential area there had also been shrouded in fog. The fog made it hard for Randall and Emily to breathe. Then they found a police car parked just like that. Emily immediately got into the car and tried the radio communication in the police car. Emily immediately said that she needed help at the Beachcomber area. Luckily Emily's help was answered by the police at headquarters. But the policeman said that the area there is very dangerous, on the grounds that everyone in the area was infected. The policeman also told Emily to go into the house and close the windows and not to inhale the fog that came. After that, the policeman said that the fog that had sprung up was not a real fog. Emily asked, "If not fog, then what is all that?" But the police cut off the communication instead. Hearing this, Emily immediately got out of the car and she saw Randall was already lying on the ground. After that, Emily and Randall pulled over at a house to ask for help. Emily immediately broke one of the windows of the house with a wooden block. They both took turns entering the house. When they were in the house, they tried to check the condition of the house. Randall found a phone. But the phone is not working. Emily instead found a jerry can of vinegar and gave it to Randall to drink. Then Randall told Emily to turn on the TV in the house. When the TV is turned on, there is only an emergency writing and telling residents to evacuate. Emily, who was curious about all this, immediately turned on the radio. On radio broadcasts heard news about the microbes that survive in the rocks. The microbes release various bacteria, thereby making the bacteria evaporate in the air. It is also said that the bacteria that evaporates is very dangerous. From the vapor it is very possible to destroy the human population on this earth. Emily, who panicked, immediately sealed all the gaps in the house with plaster. Then Emily found the basement of the house. He went downstairs and found 2 oxygen cylinders. Without hesitation he tried to inhale oxygen from the canister. On the other hand, Randall, who was getting worse, was actually spitting mucus out of his mouth. It turns out that from the vomit mucus there are also parasites like the one Emily stepped on. Randall's eyes immediately turned white like Jane's. Emily, who was still in the basement trying to find other items. When he turned on the light, he saw a man who was covered in mucus and parasites on his body. There was also a strange figure standing above the man and looking at Emily. Without thinking, Emily immediately ran upstairs carrying an oxygen cylinder. When Emily came to Randall, she was surprised to see Randall had become like Jane. Then he hit Randall with oxygen. Emily was in shock for a moment and was at a loss as to what to do. While she was panicking, Emily saw a car key under the cupboard. At that moment he immediately got into the car carrying oxygen cylinders. Emily immediately fled from the area using a car. Because the steam was so thick, it was difficult for Emily to see the road. In the end, Emily just hit a tree just like that. Emily realized and she immediately got out of the car. With more and more steam, making it hard for Emily to breathe. Then Emily, who had panicked, found a puddle of water and immediately soaked in the water. In the morning it was seen that the puddle was a small lake near the shore. Emily is also seen lying on the beach alone. But Emily who woke up was not Emily anymore, but Emily who had been infected by bacteria. And the movie is over. Thank you very much for stopping by the Ndrow Movie channel. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share. See you in the next video.